So now, after all this time and trouble, we should be down to the last function that we actually need to finish, which is the search function. Now, if you've been paying attention, then you should notice that we kind of already completed this without even really realizing it. Basically, in order to remove a specific node from the list, we had to actually first find that node, which we already did in the remove function. So actually, we can just copy the meat of this code and come up to the search function body. We're going to paste this in here. I'm sure this will come back to bite me like it always does, but we'll do copy pasting anyways. Alright, so we have node t iter, and then down here we basically say iter equals head. While iter does not equal null, we start searching for our data. And if we find the node, then we just want to return it back, right? So at this point, we would just return iter. Now you can see here that this function is going to return a pointer back to its caller, and that pointer is going to be a pointer to the node that we found, which contains the data we want, or it will be null in the case that we ended up not finding the node, or the list was actually null, which this loop actually handles by default. So we set iter equal to head. While iter does not equal null, we go ahead and loop. So if head happened to be null and the list was empty, so would iter. So we would just end up returning null. Or while it wasn't, if we were traversing the list and we ended up not locating the node that we wanted, right, we would just fall through. Iter would end up being null anyways, and we would return it back. So this little snippet of code right here actually handles all of the cases for us by default, which is, again, really nice. And if we want to see how a client would actually use this code, we can go back to our main file again, and in here we can find where we end up calling search. Where do I call search? Case 1, 2, remove front, remove back, search, right? So in here, if we want to use the search function, we end up reading the number we want to search for from the file. We call search with that argument, and then we get the results from it back, right? Because this function is returning a pointer, right? So we need to catch that in something. So we grab the result of that function and we check to see if it was null. If it's not null, meaning we got a pointer back, we know that we found the node. So we just say, hey, we found the node with this value in the list. If it actually returned null, then we would end up printing out this statement. So we did not find the specified value in the list, right? So that's how it would get used, and that's how we have to think about implementing it. So after we've got that, we can come in here. We can go ahead and make our file again. Oofta. I broke something. Oh, because I forgot the star. This is a reminder to everyone that the asterisk, or the star, is very important, right? When we use that, we tell the compiler we are declaring a pointer. If we don't use that, then we are just declaring a static instance of that variable, or a stack-based instance, right? So in this case, that was very important. Compile it again. We run, and we'll run our test program again to make sure everything looks correct. Right? You can check the appends and prepends to make sure everything matches up, make sure the list is as you would expect it. You can see we're removing stuff and we're good to go there. We can go into the tests folder again. We will rebuild everything one more time. And I can run the search test. And there you go again. Test passed. Voila. If you want to be super crazy, so at this point, we've kind of gone over all of the functions. We've implemented all of the required functionality. If you want to give everything one more run over with the unit tests to make sure everything's running correctly, I've actually included this script here, which just says run unit tests. So you have to make sure that you've already built them all. And once they're built, you can do run unit tests, and it goes ahead and just runs all of them in one go, right? So you can see here we ran the append test and it passed, ran the prepend test, it passed, so on and so forth. And then at the bottom, I also kind of lay out what your max potential points might be for this assignment. Now, just because you passed all of the tests does not necessarily mean you will end up with all of these points, right? Because I do look at other things like styling, how you implemented things. If you're doing things in a less than ideal manner, you can get dinged points there. Or if you're introducing a lot of things like memory leaks or other just bad programming habits, you will also get dinged for that, right? So this is just kind of a guideline of what you might end up with if you pass all of the tests. Right, so after that, we can come back up here and we'll go back into our source directory and we'll make our final commit. So we'll do git add dll.hpp, git commit-m, finished search function, and then we'll do git push, right? And at this point, effectively your assignment is done. If you have made your final commit before the due date, then you are pretty much done and your assignment has been submitted, right? Because you can go over to GitHub and you can see exactly what the current state of your repository is. You just have to remember to have pushed everything into it. And again, this keeps a nice little track of the work that you've done on your assignment, right? You can see here, completed the append function, completed the get front and get back, removed functions, yada, 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 right? That's all in here and it's all useful, right? So that is basically everything you need for assignment 1, right? The code that I've written up in this little series of videos is basically everything you need. I wanted to kind of walk everyone through from step 0 to step done for this first assignment because there are a lot of moving pieces in these assignments. We have Git, we have the first kind of introduction to C++ for a lot of you. So I wanted to make sure everyone could kind of understand the layout of the assignments and the workflow they need to go through to complete these assignments correctly and in a timely manner, right? I fully understand that a lot of this was probably pretty boring to watch, but I hope that this will be useful going forward because pretty much all of my assignments follow the same format. You're going to clone down a repository from GitHub. It's going to have a source folder and a test folder, right? I'm going to give you template code to work with, and you just need to fill out the required functions for the assignment. Okay, so if anything I covered in any of these videos doesn't really make sense to you, please don't hesitate to reach out. I want to make sure that everybody gets on this same track quickly so that nobody really gets left behind. So again, please ask any questions that you might have, and we'll see you in the future videos.